Welcome to That's What She Said, where we'll spill the tea on women empowerment in the Great Lakes Bay region with your host, Christiana Malacara.
Hi, everyone, and welcome to another episode of That's What She Said with Christiana Malacara, myself, as we spill the tea on women empowerment in the Great Lakes Bay region. And I don't know, should I start saying like and beyond? Because we are beyond, because we are now on Spotify. But first and foremost, we are here live to you through the internets. Our Facebook pages are That's What She Said with Christiana Malacara and WSGW's Facebook page. We're also on YouTube, and then on Sundays over the airwaves at 6 o'clock at 100.5 FM and 790 AM 24/7 on Spotify. Okay, got that out of the way. Now let's talk about something that kind of happened to me this week. Okay, let's just take a moment, listeners. I I sit down with several women all week long and talk about what fuels you. How do you fill your cup to move forward? And I must say, I did something a little spontaneous this week, and I gave myself an opportunity to go have fun. And for those who know me, I don't really do that often because I try to make everything fun, but I really went big or went home. I went to a concert on a Wednesday. So that in itself is just a risk as a 35-year-old woman that has to get up early the next morning with children. But overall, it was more or less, let's just have fun. Sometimes filling your cup is you just going out and doing something for yourself, which I did. And I'm very grateful that I had that, last weekend of the summer hurrah. And it filled my cup. I feel great today. And a little tired, not gonna lie. 3 cups of coffee deep, but I feel wonderful. I filled my cup. So I'm encouraging you to just go out and treat yourself to fun. Have fun in the safest way to make yourself kind of just rejuvenate and take time for you. Um, my guest here, I feel like every time I meet her, every time I run into her since we've met, she's always having fun. So this kind of ties all together. See what I did there? She works in a place that is all about fun for me anyway. Her job is to educate, but creatively, and make it fun for people of all ages. So you see this F word coming up a lot? Yes. So without further ado, Katie, how you doing today?
I'm doing great. Thanks for the invitation to be here.
I appreciate you being here. Katie, I'm sorry, and I do apologize. I trip up with your last name. Can you tell the community about yourself, and then what do you do that I'm referring to with all this fun? How would the community know you, Katie?
Yeah, I do have probably the most fun job.
I'm jealous.
I think so. So you might know me because I work at the Saginaw Art Museum and Gardens. And so I do education and volunteer management visitor services. So I might be at the front desk when you visit the art museum, welcoming you in. We do a lot of art programming on Saturdays for people of all ages. So I'm usually running around doing some fun stuff, or maybe we have a field trip from a school coming to the art museum and I get to share art with kids. So it's always just a fun, busy time at the museum.
See, I told you guys, I'm so jealous. Um, when I walk into the art museum or I see Katie out in the community, she's just always very cheerful and smiley. So this position at the art museum, you interact with so many diverse groups in the community that have this all really common factor of, hey, let's go see art. Can you tell me what and expand on what exactly you do at the museum?
Yeah, sure. So I think that when you hear art museum, sometimes that feels like it's such an elitist place, or it's only for a certain type of people, or it's someplace you need to know something about art. You have to dress a certain way or whatever. And we're breaking down all those barriers. Art is for everybody. That's why I believe it's for every culture. It's for every age, for just everyone to come and have a good time. Um, and yeah, like I said, there's something for everybody. So you can come make art, You can come look at the art. We can discuss art. We have concerts in the garden. We have artist talks. You can talk to the artists, and just there's always different crafts, and just there's a bunch of different ways that people can, there's entry points for them to come to the museum and enjoy themselves, and also connect with others, connect with people that they came there with, and have conversations maybe they wouldn't have had otherwise without coming to the art museum, and also maybe connecting with people they didn't know before.
Okay, so for the listeners that don't know, we're talking about the Saginaw Art Museum, and gardens.
And gardens, that's
Yeah,
new.
you got to add that little portion in there. Yeah, it's a beautiful garden back there. Where is that? Where is it located? Or, where can we find information about that online?
Yeah, so that address is 1126 North Michigan Avenue, and we're on Facebook. You can look us on Facebook. You can look at our website, saginawartmuseum.org, and we have a lot of events coming up that you can see there.
Katie, how was it that you decided I want to work at the art museum?
This has been a dream of mine for a long time. So a long time. And I guess I always tell this story when I talk about kind of like my journey, is when I was in 3rd or 4th grade, someone from the Saginaw Art Museum came to my school, and they brought those little slides on a little projector.
Yes.
Just this volunteer that came, and then she would talk about the symbolism in art and all about art history. And I'm, 8, 9 years old, and I think a lot of my friends thought it was boring, and I just ate it up. I absolutely loved it, and I loved making art and stuff too. I was very lucky to have parents who made arts just very accessible. So I did tap dancing, and I did theater, and I did all the things, and not doing coloring books, but doing these blank books and just filling it up with art. And I just really fell in love with it. I know that's something that I always wanted to be part of my life. And then I went to college, and I did study art, and I thought, I don't know if I necessarily want to be a full-time artist, and I don't really want to be a full-time art teacher. And then the idea came up at my school. I went to Central Michigan University. There was a museum studies minor, and I realized this is absolutely perfect, that I can work in an art museum, be around art all the time, work with all different people, and be a really like a community anchor. I was really inspired by that, and specifically education and engagement. And I did some crazy stuff post-college, doing whatever, which I can get more into if you want. And then eventually and when this job came up, it was just everything just kind of aligned for me. And so this is what I've always wanted to do.
Well, that's a really, I have to say, I love that story, but it feels very tidy, right? It feels to me as if things kind of, like you said, aligned for you. But we know that's not always the case too. So you went to school, you had this vision, right? Was there ever a time where you're in school, you're like, I don't know anymore, Mom. Like, Dad, I'm not sure if this is it. Or were you one of those girls where it's like, yep, this is it, start, finish?
Well, yes and no. So like I was always wanted, like I said, art to be a part of my life, but I probably changed my major every other week. And my friends could tell you that too. Like I'm going to study anthropology and be an art minor. I'm going to do broadcasting and be an art minor. And I think eventually I just had to be honest with myself. And it's like, no, I want to be an art major. And I think some people can be a little bit, they don't know that, like, what are you going to do with that degree?
Mhm.
And luckily my parents never asked that. My parents have always been supportive, and it was a struggle post college. I think there was a time that I think I did question, I guess, is this really what I want to do? Because I can back up, I guess, how I got to that point. But so I said, I went to school at CMU, and then I thought, there is nothing for me in Michigan. Like all I wanted to do was get my degree and get out. Like there's no art here. There's just no job. I felt like I wasn't successful if I like stayed home. And I'm from Bay City.
Why'd you feel that way?
I think just popular culture. I think partially, like if you want to do art, you have to go to LA. You have to go to New York. You have to go to a big city to make it. So I think that was just the messaging there always was. And then just, I think from teachers to being with my other peers, it just seemed like successful people left their hometown. That's just like how it is.
Mhm.
And And that was just, I guess, put in my head. I don't believe that anymore. But I did at 18 or 22 when I graduated.
Well, I know part of it is you're leaving high school and some of your classmates are leaving right off the bat. And, I stayed in Saginaw for some time after high school graduation, and then I did leave. And I came back too, guys. So it's one of those things that it's just that feeling of, do I need to leave to be successful? And the answer is no, you don't. So when you realized, we're going to jump, when you realized that you can be successful at home, how did that make you feel?
I mean, I think that I don't think I would have came to that conclusion without doing all the other stuff first, I guess. I think I needed to leave to learn and then to come back home and appreciate it more. I think I would have always been thinking I missed out on something if I didn't do those things. So I think the journey of leaving and coming back is, I think, what I needed to do. But yeah, I left. I lived in Milwaukee, Wisconsin for a year and did AmeriCorps. And then I came back home for a short time. And then I went and moved to Seattle for 2 years. And then I'm like, this is it. Like, I'm in the big city. And then that's probably like the most probably depressed I've ever been.
Wow.
was being there. And I was a teaching artist. And so I did a lot of part-time contract work and just trying to make enough money and just, like I said, run around everywhere. I didn't have a car. I was so far away from home. And then I kind of realized, okay, so maybe the city, that wasn't it. Maybe if I just change that part, something will change. And then of course, COVID happened. This was 2020. And that made me really, was like, okay, I need to start prioritizing some things. I think I always been someone like, I don't need anybody. I can just do whatever I want. And then I think I realized after COVID, it's important to have a community around you. So then during that time, I moved to rural North Carolina for 2 years.
Oh my goodness.
So
girlfriend. Yeah.
Quite
wow.
a switch.
Yeah.
And then I met probably some of the best friends I've ever had there. And like I said, really living in a rural place really like opened my eyes to community and stuff. And I think I realized that I don't need to be in a big city to have arts and culture. I can be in a small place and still have that. And then finally, I decided to go back for my master's degree. And I was finally coming back to Michigan and finally coming back home. And I go to Michigan State and I thought, well, okay, I'm going to move to Lansing. And then I ended up moving back with my parents at 29. And I think that's when I just realized how awesome like Bay City is, how awesome this region is. And I recently moved to Saginaw when this job came up. And I just realized, like I said, how much arts is here and how a great community is. And I just don't think I just didn't see that before. I don't know.
It sounds like you've experienced community in a lot of different ways.
Mm-hmm.
What's your definition of community?
Oh, that's a hard question.
What are some things that make your community?
Make up my community?
Yeah.
I think I have a lot of different, community. I mean, of course, like a community of friends, like my family, my work peers and stuff. But I think that I don't think I have to know the person to feel like I have a sense of community. I'm not an extroverted person. So I'm not necessarily like, I'm going to go meet everybody in the community and go to all these events and stuff. I can go to a community event by myself and just having this energy of like people around you and feeling like you're a part of something, that you're contributing to this and you're seeing the good work other people are doing. And same vice versa at the museum, me doing some work that everyone else gets to enjoy. I feel like that's still really meaningful. So
you just said something that I feel like was important, which is, being somewhere you can feel like a sense of community. Let's take this all the way back to the beginning of the conversation. You're at the Saginaw Art Museum, and that's a very introverted experience. You have a piece of originally, right? Mm-hmm. Like the traditional way of a museum is, you have a painting in front of you. It's you in the painting. You're reflecting on it. It depends how you feel about it. And it's very introverted for the most part. And you might have a partner with you. And, oh, what do you see? Oh, what do you see? Right. But how is it that you're creating a sense of community at the Saginaw Art Museum? Because there's tons of programs, and all the time I go, there's multiple people and different groups of people. how do you create community in that type of environment?
Yeah, and I think of it as two parts, I guess. So there's the art making part. So we do art encounters and open studio where our art classroom is open. We have either a guided activity or, like I said, open studio where you can make whatever you want. And so some people might come in little groups and little pods. Usually people don't come to that by themselves. So there's already this small community that you're coming with of people you know. And I guess something that I try to do in that space is just even how the tables are. Instead of before I came, the tables were like in rows. And so you could only be facing the people in front of you versus now the tables are, well, you've been there.
Yeah, they're like little clusters, right? Yeah.
Right. So getting people who, and also intergenerational activities too. We have adults, we have retirees, we have really small children, teenagers come to these things, and now they're all making something and are facing each other. So I feel like organically that just happens.
Yeah.
As far as the artwork, yeah, it is quite like a solitary experience. You go and you're supposed to be quiet. You just go, you look at one piece, you just walk on, look at another piece, and maybe you go with someone and you might just kind of
chat
a little bit or whatever. And so that's something that I've been working on is that I think everyone can appreciate art, but they might need a little bit help with guidance or some engagement and stuff because they can get more out of it than they think they can. And so one of those things is like I have scavenger hunts. So those are mostly for kids to engage with the art so they can walk around and do something because the art museum isn't usually kid friendly.
I must say I have done the scavenger hunt with my children and I was the one that was like, nope, you're wrong. That is over here. We have to go over here. And I was completely into the concept of having a scavenger hunt in the art museum. And the beautiful thing about the Saginaw Art Museum is that it's not too big. I'm not scavenger hunting everywhere, but at the same time, there's this beautiful variety of artwork on display. And that was a bonding experience between myself and my kids doing the scavenger hunt, but also this other mom and her kids. And we were kind of like, I wonder who can find all of these first. And so there was this kind of low key competition happening, but we ended up creating, a sense of community for our groups of children. And so I deeply appreciate what you're doing over there. I'm just going to reintroduce you. We have, for those who are just hopping on and tuning in to listen, I have Katie Mielens next to me. And Katie is just a ball of sunshine, fun, and, the passion that she has for sharing artwork with the community it's amazing. It's amazing. And this is deeply important to me as I too am an art major. So I know, right? A special breed of people, I must say. So what is your favorite part that is about your job and getting to your job?
My favorite part about my job?
Yeah.
Yeah, and kind of going off what we were talking about before, like engaging people, that is my favorite part. And so the other things that we do too, I have special little cards at the front of the museum so someone can take a packet of questions. So it's not just them walking around, but they can ask each other these flashcards. So they're like, if you could pick one artwork to be in your home, what would it be? Or if this artwork was a story, what would it be? So it kind of aids that. And so, like, for example, today, so my favorite part is since we do field trips, we just started this last year, so I rewrote the curriculum. And the goal of the field trips is to, not art history, but to get students knowing that their opinions are valid of the artwork, how to interpret artwork, those critical thinking skills. So today we had docent training for the new field trip tour guides. And so we have a couple, 3 of them that just started. And I just love the conversations we have because we go through the artwork. I model all the activities, do with the kids, and literally same artwork. If you go with different people and you can ask the same questions, just hearing other people's interpretations and how engaged they are. And a lot of them are like, I never noticed this artwork before we did this. I didn't even know this was here. Or I have never looked at an artwork this long for more than 20 seconds.
Exactly.
And now we're spent like 15 minutes on one artwork. Yeah. And I just love the conversations art can come from. And that's just a great space for me able to really, really do that. There's not a lot of parts of my job that I don't like, though.
That was going to be my next question. What do you find challenging?
Logging volunteer hours. All the kind of more in logging our Arts for All program. That's our free membership for students in Saginaw County. So I'm logging it's more like, maybe the more boring, like data entry, paperwork stuff. But otherwise, I think it's a great balance of working with people, and it's a great balance of working with art and things and information. That also took me a minute to get there because you asked earlier, is there a point where I don't know if I can do this? One part being in Seattle and kind of struggling to make ends meet, but also when I spent my 2 years in North Carolina, I worked in a school and I was basically an arts integration specialist, and I was exhausted. And I thought, I cannot do this anymore. I am so passionate about arts and education, but I come home every day and I am exhausted. And I just take a nap and then I binge eat some food. I go to sleep. I wake up the next day and do it. And I'm like, this is not sustainable. And I think that then that job was a contract job. So it eventually ended. That's when I came back to Michigan. Uh, and I kind of was more picky and just cognizant of the kind of job environment I wanted to be in. I wanted flexibility. I wanted to wear many hats. And I think that, so when this came up, that's why I guess I say everything aligned and stuff. So the passion was there, but I just almost quit because like I just can't keep doing this. So it just made me reprioritize.
It sounds like a challenging time when you're out in Seattle. You would think, from previously, what you just said is like, I'm leaving because when I'm leaving, that's means success, right? I'm not home. But now you're in Seattle, supposedly, like, oh, I did it, I made it, and you were the most depressed. Is that what you're saying?
Oh yeah, for sure.
So how do you feel now?
I feel fantastic.
So
it's been a journey.
There's light at the end of the tunnel. There's a way of coming and bringing yourself out of this. That's what you're saying.
Yes, most definitely. And I think there's always this when of like, oh, I'll be happy, when I go to the big city or when I get this job or when I whatever. And it's like those things seemingly align, and then it's okay, but there's still something missing. I'm still not quite happy. Like I moved to the big city, but I had no friends. And then that's when I realized, oh, that's something that I need. So
recognizing what you need. That was part of the journey.
For sure.
What was
therapy?
I love it. Love it. All these little pearls you're dropping here. I love this. So let's go to Seattle, right? So you're in Seattle, you're going through this process of work, nap, sleep, and then wake up again. Like you're going through this process of a cycle.
Yes.
How did you break that cycle?
So Seattle, I was a little bit more sporadic.
Okay.
North Carolina was was that. How I broke the cycle, I think that, like I said, I think I realized the reprioritization. Like I said, I prioritize and I value flexibility. That's something that I need to find in my next job. And thinking of something I've really reflected on this year is boundaries. And when you're saying no to something, or you're saying yes, when you're saying yes to something, you're saying no to something else. And I think I realized, okay, I'm saying yes to being just the best worker and overcommitting. I'm doing the best by these kids, but I'm saying no to my health and my well-being.
Can you say that quote again? When you're saying,
you can say, I guess either when you're saying yes to something, you're saying no to something else.
I've never heard that before.
So yeah, which that was a big thing for, I guess, me this year. I've been so much better about boundaries because I've been a yes girl. Can you do that? Yes. Here's an opportunity. Yes, 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 yes. And then, like I said, I'm trying to think, there's only so much time in the day.
And there's only so much energy you can give to it.
Right. And so that's what I've been really working on this year. So I restarted school this semester, and I thought, okay, I'm also committed to all these other things. I also do like theater stuff in the community. And I was asked to do all these shows. And I thought, I'm going to do 2 because I know I have school. Old Katie would have said yes and then just been miserable. So I think that's just, what do I really, really value? And that I can't value everything.
That you can't value everything. Well, we will be right back with Katie, and we're going to dive right into what makes Katie tick.
That's What She Said with Christiana Malacara is back. Now let's spill the tea.
Hi, and we are back with Katie Mielens. She is an absolute pillar in the community and is at the Saginaw Art Museum, which I highly recommend as a art lover myself. Just go find a museum, please. Anywhere, wherever you're listening, go find a museum. Highly recommend the Saginaw Art Museum, but art is so, oh man, it's just so good. Even when you look at, art history or modern art, and finding things to relate and conversation starters, and I mean, even the artwork my kids bring home every day, it's great to see their development. And you are fortunate you get to see this all the time, Katie. And thank you. I must say thank you from the community. We appreciate you. We really do. We really do. So Katie, we were just talking about in the last segment about kind of what your journey looked like professionally, what your journey looked like as a student, and developing yourself to who you are today. But let's talk a little bit about your art journey. What kind of art did you make?
Oh, I love all art. So as a student, and I guess maybe kind of now too, I did a lot of mixed media. So I was very much a jack of all trades, master of none type student. So instead of being like, I'm going to take every single photography class and just that's like, I'm a photographer, I would take photography 101, drawing 101, printmaking, bookbinding. And I just took everything because I like the way that all these materials come together. So I was very much into collage and appropriating different images and kind of putting them next to other things and how that changes the meaning. I just love symbols, and I love just how our minds put stories together. And then I kind of just like stopped making art for a long time, and I really focused on education. And once again, like I said, this year's been just a good year for me. I think also I finally realized that artists aren't special. Everybody, I mean,
What do you mean? Okay, what do you mean by that?
That everyday people are artists. Like, artists aren't just like blessed to be artists. That everyone has. I mean, art is the externalization of like the human experience. Like, everyone is capable. Maybe it's not maybe not the most like technically sound, or you might be not trained or whatever. But like, what I do now is I do paper making and bookbinding. That has been my focus now.
That's awesome.
But I always thought, well, I haven't done it in a long time, or I'm not that good at it. Like, I still have to watch YouTube videos how to do things. I'm really not like an artist or like an expert. And I think I finally realized, like, who cares? Like, I am an artist, and if you're making things, you're an artist.
You're an artist. Yes.
So, and I think that so once again, old Katie, if you would have asked me, are you an artist? I'd say no. Now I say yes.
Old Katie. Okay.
Yeah.
So let's go into old Katie. I love this Katie, by the way, but old Katie had to happen to get new Katie, to get who you are today. That person, what values did you grow up with as a child?
Old values. Huh.
And they could still, that could be something that you still carry today. What is something that helped you in your upbringing when it came to values?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if I can answer the question, I guess, exactly. I'll do my best to say something. Like, I'm very close with my parents. My parents are also volunteers at the museum.
Naturally, yes. I have met Mom. She's cool.
Yeah, and so my dad's there too. So I think growing up, like I said, I met my brother too. My brother's a musician. He's a music educator, and definitely the values of the arts growing up right off the bat. And I think my brother's 5 years older than me, so we have a little bit of an age gap. So I think that I always valued my space growing up, having my own room, and then also having to entertain myself. And like I said, I think that's partially being an introvert. I think I just always valued time to reflect and just in time by myself. I think that has not changed. But like I said before, I thought that I don't need anybody. I can move wherever, and that will be more definitive of me and that of my happiness. And then I realized I am an introvert energy wise, but I still need people. So that value has changed a little bit. I try to prioritize that more.
So that curve, that bend, what was that pivotal point that was like, this is it? Like this, I'm discovering myself. Was there an event or something that helped kind of catapult you in the direction you're in?
Oh, I mean, COVID. For sure. Like I said, I think I was already kind of lonely being in Seattle. That's kind of I would say that Seattle was a turning point for me. Or even before that, when I lived in Milwaukee, I think that that taught me to do things by myself. So I feel like that was kind of step one for me, because I studied abroad in Italy, which was absolutely awesome. And you know what? I spent a lot of my time in my apartment alone and not going out and experiencing the city, I think, as much as I should have, because I thought that I wasn't cool enough. I don't know, attractive enough. I'm not fun enough. And I'm an introvert, and this is who I am, and this is who I'll ever be. And I feel like now I'm looking back, that was just kind of it was a defense mechanism. And then going to Milwaukee, that was probably the first turning point of, I can go do things by myself. I don't need to wait to do things with other people. So I would go to movies by myself, which awesome, would recommend going to movies by yourself.
Yeah.
Don't have to ask anyone what movie they want to see or where they want to sit. You just do your own thing. And I would take myself out to lunch every week and just take myself on day trips. And that was the kind of the first step. And then the next.
So I'm going to pause you right there, because that's a big step though. Like going from, you had the courage to go and study abroad, but then you stayed in your room. You're having the courage to leave and move outside of the state, but not exactly making friends and wanting to make friends. So what can a listener do to kind of push themselves out of that comfort? Well, I guess comfort zone, but you said it was a defense mechanism. What can somebody do to kind of push themselves out of that?
I think that so step one is just making yourself just get out in general. It's like, say, going to a movie, I think, is a great kind of first step of, I can do this thing by myself, but I'm still with people. And then I think just joining organizations, like joining clubs. And also I think I realized I always thought I just don't get along with people my own age. Like I can't make friends because I just don't get along. And you know what? I love older people, and that's okay if they're my friends. It doesn't have to be this box of like, this is the type of person that's to be my friend. You can open yourself up, and if you like theater, start volunteering. Volunteering is a great way, I think, and it's kind of an easy way into stuff. And I think it's just like 1, 2, 3 jump kind of thing. And sometimes I have to sometimes I do still feel shy. I've come a long way, but I still feel shy. But sometimes I just gotta put forward my best version of myself, and people like to talk about themselves, as you can see from your show. And so asking questions,
Yes.
And like sometimes like, okay, I'm a quiet person. I feel if you just ask people questions, I think people are willing to talk, and that's good, just easy way to get to know people.
That's true. That is so true. What I always tell my guests is when they're nervous, I always say, we're talking about you, and you know yourself best. We're just sharing your story. So when I'm out and, networking or things like that, I always, like you said, try to just ask a question, because it's interesting how easily people can connect to each other. Just with one or two questions, then we have a common factor. But that's really fun that you said, you can make friends outside of your ideal friend comfort zone there. You don't have to have a young professional friend, right? You can have I don't know, do I dare say old professional friend? But all walks of life,
Right.
Friends in all walks of life. So, who is it that empowers you, that is maybe from a different walk of life?
Oh, I mean, I also have the privilege, since I'm the volunteer manager at the museum, and so we have a lot of people who are retirees and they're just looking to spend their time. I feel like they're all my friends, because we bond over art, and I have so much to like learn from them, and they're excited to be here. So I think that's really inspirational. And
But when it comes to empowerment, do you feel like most of your empowerment comes from your inner self then?
I think so at this point. I think that, like I said, I've done a lot of work. But I think starting off, I mean, I'd have to say like the women in my life, my mom and my grandma, most definitely have been. My grandma was a very social person and did a
Okay.
lot of volunteering, and she was busy every day of the week up until her
Yeah.
late 80s. So definitely an inspiration there of like going out and meeting people. And she, like I said, was in her 80s and she would have friends that were like 40 or, half her age or whatever. So
Yeah.
she was a
That's
great
awesome.
model, I guess, model for me for that. And then, so uh, my
She's
mom,
pretty cool.
my mom does it all.
I can vouch.
And
Your
she,
mom's pretty cool.
my mom grew up, I grew up and my mom was a businesswoman and she took care of the house and she took care of the kids and she did everything. Like I said, she's retired and still like I said, volunteering at the museum. And mom, if you're listening, you have a thankless job. But if I call my mom like, Mom, I need you for this, she is always yes, 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 like always very much there for me. And I think that she's just a good model of being there for people and has empowered me to know that I can do things by myself. Like I said, kind of coming from like the Milwaukee thing, I just for a long time didn't think I could do things by myself. So thanks, Mom.
Thanks, Mom. Um, so you're saying that you didn't think you could do things by yourself, and now you do. Like,
Yes.
you do. That's the thing. And that's exciting for me as a woman to sit next to someone and say, you pulled yourself out of that. It might have been with help, through friends or professionally, or, like you just said, kind of going and diving deep within yourself. But when you realize that you're coming up from air, how did that make you feel?
Like getting out of that, kind
Yeah.
of out of that slump. I mean, I don't know if there was this moment of I am this and now I crossed the line and now I am this. It's, been a slow steps. Like I said, first kind of thing, Milwaukee. Like I said, it took years to kind of get my head above of water there. And I think, like I said, moving to North Carolina, going back to the friends, I never thought at this stage in my life, like I have all the friends I'm ever gonna have. I'm not gonna meet new people. Like I said, I met my best friends that I like have there now. And so I think they showed me because I was always so self-conscious and just about like said like my body and about I don't know my intelligence or that I never like fit in or something like that. And they made me feel that way. And I just didn't think that I would find that. And so I think that helped me like gain a lot of confidence as having their support through that very traumatic time for everyone, all of us at that time. Um,
So how do we look for support?
oh, yeah. That's yeah, I think it like I said, I think it comes sometimes in unlikely places because I never thought I would make more friends. And I just thought, I'm going to move to North Carolina. I'm going to do my thing for a year, get the experience, career experience, and then I'm going to leave. I'm just here to do that and just get out. And unexpectedly, and then I ended up staying for 2 years. So I think that don't knock it. No, don't knock anything out. Like I'm gonna volunteer for this thing that I like it, but I'm not gonna make friends. I'm gonna do anything. Like don't assume. Drop those assumptions about people. I think that I always thought, who wants to be friends with me? They have their own friends. Like don't assume those things about people.
Wow, that was really powerful. You don't assume those things about people, because I guess that's kind of saying that, go into something open-minded also.
Mm.
Which can be difficult when we're in this daily routine of, this is what I do on Monday, this is what I do on Tuesday, this is what my day looks like. But being open-minded to a new environment, that can be uplifting. I
Yeah.
really think so.
And I think we label ourselves too, like I said, like I don't know if you're familiar with like Myers-Briggs or like something like that. All these personality tests that I think I used to be so into that, and I thought this is the type of person I am, and that's what I am. And then so if I go like say go to something extroverted, I'll go to these things, and I'm like, well, I'm not that type of person, so I'm not going to do it, even though I feel the sense of me wanting to do it.
So wait, so you were taking surveys to kind of put yourself in a box of a label? almost?
I think so. Yeah. Cause I think, like I said, I didn't know what my values were. And I just felt like I needed something to be validating. And it did for a while. I think it was validating because like, oh, other people think this way. That's really great. But then that's why when labels I think get dangerous, because then I thought, well, this is my personality type. I can't be anything else. And I think what I was just not very confident.
What is something that a listener can do to build confidence?
Eliminate shoulds.
Okay. Eliminate shoulds.
Yes.
What do you mean?
Or I will be, like I said, it'll be happy whens and shoulds. Like I should go running. I should eat this. I should join a group. I should be reading more. If you don't like to do it, you're not going to do it.
That's valid. Okay. Expand.
So I say, find the things that make you feel good and don't feel guilty about it. And then those are the things I feel like you can grow confidence in. I've always been an athlete, and I thought, well, I should do strength training. And then I would just feel bad all the time. Like, oh, I'm just a crappy person. I just can't keep this schedule. Why can't I do this? This is a whole fault of mine. I'm not an organized, diligent person. I just don't like strength training.
So don't do it.
Find the things that make you feel good. And then I think the confidence will grow within those things. And also also surrounding yourself with people that make you feel good. And I think I deleted Instagram from my phone because I know that like you look through and you see people and it's just, that doesn't make me feel good. I'm not going to do it. Or these people in my life. And I know that's easier said than done. Like it's hard to kind of like, I don't like cut people off sometimes or whatever, but sorry, you're going to say something. Go ahead.
No, I wasn't. I was just getting excited. I don't know. I've heard something similar to this concept of saying, I don't do. So it's kind of a little opposite in saying, I don't do XYZ anymore. And then tell yourself that before you stop doing the thing that you're going to stop. So let's just say, I don't eat this anymore. Or let's just say I don't eat after 5 o'clock or something, right? Or I don't eat late at night. So to say that before you develop the habit will switch your mindset. And so you're saying something similar of, to kind of feed into the things you're good at, right? And that's going to be a confidence builder. So what things were you feeding in that you were like, I'm good at this, I'm going to do more of this?
Simple things, really. I love journaling and I love reading. And I think that's the other thing too. I think when I used to feel guilty about that stuff because I thought I should be doing something more productive. Like I should be doing something that there's like this big goal at the end. And I think with like journaling and reading, I found just so much peace and so much love for it. And I just really, really have leaned into that and not worrying about that I don't have something interesting to talk about at dinner parties or something,
See,
I used to live that way. I used to live like, I'm going to go travel. I'm going to do all these things. So people will think I'm cool and I have something to talk about.
But you're just going to lean into the things you love.
Right. And whatever, what it is.
Whatever. I get it.
I think that makes someone, and then that makes something, now that I know with hindsight, like I know that's what makes someone more interesting than, anything else. People, obviously, they want to talk about what they're passionate about, they get excited about. And I don't have to know anything about whatever that you're talking about, but if you're excited about it, I want to listen and I have questions. And that's what makes someone, I think, interesting and connected. It doesn't have to be these big grander things. It can be simple things.
I had an art professor in college who said, be confident in yourself because you're an artist. And when you walk into a room, you're already the most interesting person in the room. And then he walked away. This professor, he walked out of the room. It was like he was a little unconventional, as most art professors who are really good are. And we're all sitting there and we're like, well, what are we supposed to do? So naturally we just started talking to each other. And this was within the first week, maybe second week of school. So then we're all talking to each other and we're like, we have our supplies. He walked out, he left, he comes back about 40 minutes later with a coffee. And then he says, did you guys get to know each other? And they're all like, yeah. And now we're like a little more chipper. And, like some people left, most people stayed. And then he says, you are all so interesting to each other because you're willing to share your story. And I thought that was so important and something that I ended up living by here as we storytell. But I really like how you said everyone's an artist. And you don't have to, have this grand experience. And maybe that's truly the root of it. Because we are all people who have a story. And I think post-COVID, we're more willing to listen to what each other's story is. And that was what I said. Oh, man. So can you give us your definition of empowerment?
Oh, empowerment. I think that empowerment is giving other people the confidence to do things for themselves and are passionate about. And that's what I try to do with like my students, like empowering them to have the confidence, like I said, to come to an art museum, know that their opinion matters and is valid, empowering them to know that they have the tools that they need and the passions that they have to be able to do things on their own and go after what they want. So that's my goal with empowering.
So what is it what advice do you give to someone who can empower someone else? Like if I feel like on my heart, I really need to affect this community and empower them, what do you recommend?
I say empower them to do the things themselves. I think that, and that's what I try to do with like my volunteers in the community too. It's kind of not very sustainable to be like, I am the one person that knows how to do this thing. And now it's just me doing the things. I want to empower others to feel like now they can go to do those things. And we're just building capacity. So I think it's good to bring community members in to help. Let's all solve this problem together and then all go our ways and be able to do that work or work as a group and not be this linear thing. So I forget what you asked though. I hope I was answering it.
I don't know if you were, but it was a good answer.
Well, I think you asked something about how do you tell people how do they empower their communities?
And you're saying
bring people in, I guess.
Bring people in and create sustainability.
Yes, by empowering them to be a part of the problem solving and empowering them to be able to go do the work themselves than me saying, I think I know what you want and now I'm just going to do it. But that starts and ends with me. And it also might not be correct because you're not bringing other people into the conversation.
That was gold. That truly was.
Did that make sense?
That did make sense. I mean, it made sense to me. We'll find out in the feed, when this goes online. And they're like, what the heck is Katie talking about? No, I think that creating sustainability, it helps individuals, it helps the community and in leaders also. I feel like a lot of that is a generation of a mindset of individuals who, how can I interact with the community and those different personalities using what leadership skills I have? That's kind of how I take that. But let's hear from you in this last few seconds of the show. What is one piece of advice you would pass along?
One piece of advice. So I kind of maybe alluded to it earlier. I guess I would just say, figure out what your priorities are and have boundaries of, like, say if you're saying yes to something, you're saying no to something else. And you can't do it all. I mean, you can't have it all. You just can't do it all at once.
Say that again.
You can have it all, but you just can't do it all at once.
I love that.
So
I love that. Thank you very much for coming on. I really appreciate it. And ladies and gentlemen, that is Katie Mielens, and that's what she said.